It's 6 o'clock, and we are calling to order our town council workshop, and it's February the 12th. And I want to also say thank you to all of those who are watching online. We enjoy knowing that you're with us and visiting and working with us to know what's going on in your town trophy club. So this is opening the workshop, and I'm going to turn it directly over to Town Manager Brandon Wright, who will help us work through this. This is an opportunity for you to hear what has happened in the past, what we're doing, and where we're going. And also, Brandon, will you be opening it to any comments in the from the audience?
We do not have, I don't believe we have comments listed on the agenda for the workshop portion. However, once we begin the regular session, we do have public comments at that point. And so I think there's opportunity, if we don't have time during this meeting, to go ahead and offer public comments during the very beginning of the council meeting.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into the presentation and the discussion for this evening. First of all, thank you, Mayor and Council, for this opportunity to come and to talk to you a little bit about the findings that we had recently from our Bobcat traffic study that was performed by several members of the Town Council. And thank you to all of you who spent the time out there with us. We spent I think it was about 6 hours of time out there total, looking at traffic, observing it, all with a better understanding of what was going on there on Bobcat, Trophy Club Drive, and understanding the different traffic patterns of pedestrians and how it was that were impacting that area. There are a lot of slides on this. I'm just going to say I'm not going to go through all the slides in great detail. Certainly, if you're watching online or if you want to go back and look at those, there is a lot of information that's online from the findings that were recorded by council members during our two-day session. But I do want to make sure that we touch on the highlights as well as the overall project overview of what we are doing. First of all, understanding that we've entered into really a 6-phase project at this point to determine how it is that we can address traffic and pedestrian issues there on Bobcat. I think a lot of conversations up till now have been about, roundabout yes, roundabout no. We're kind of going to take our steps, we're going to step back just a little bit on this project to begin with the trying to observe what the problems are, making sure that we have some key findings and some objectives for the next steps as we move forward on developing solutions to address specifically the traffic and the pedestrian issues there on Bobcat. There are 6 phases. Right now, we have completed the traffic watch and review phase. So we've completed phase 1, and we are here this evening to talk about the identifying key objectives. So that's where we are. We are on phase 2, and as again, you can see the next step is in developing solutions, and then we will move on from there. So again, we were out there for 2 days, January 25th and 26th, both in the morning and in the afternoon to observe traffic coming to and leaving from school. About 6.5 hours of observation time. Everyone, it even rained one of the days a little bit on us, but we were out there. It was kind of cold that time of year, but again, it was a kind of a group effort to make sure that that happened. Just so that you know, the traffic in that area obviously is greatly impacted by the schools. And so when you take a look at the start times and the end times for those, Lakeview and Beck both start at 7:40 and at 3 o'clock. Medlin begins at 8:55, ends at 4:15, and then the high school starts at 8:30 and ends at 3:50. So we were there during those observation times, both in the beginning and at the end of the day. So this is the part where I'll kind of start getting through this information relatively briefly for all of you, but take a look a little bit as we go through. And this goes by day, so starting with January the 25th, going in the morning and then in the afternoon. Then we'll flip to January 26th, both in the morning and the afternoon, to kind of see what that looked like. One of the observations that happens is that we noticed that traffic during the entire about hour and a half time that we were out there observing, it was not consistent. In other words, traffic would go for about 10 to 15 minutes at a time, and then it would start to slow down, and then you would have a little bit of a lull in between traffics, and then it would all of a sudden pick up again as you would enter different times for school to start or for its end at the end of the day. And as we were looking at different vehicle travel times through the area, that this first day was the day that we saw the most significant travel times. And this one I think was largely impacted by looking at cars that were trying to turn left going from Bobcat into the high school entrance there at the south entrance, south exit and entrance there off of Bobcat to the high school. But we did notice that there was, again, a lot of pedestrian delays that are caused and a lot of left-hand turn delays as well. We'll go ahead, and when it came to kind of like the key traffic delay areas, again, that South High School exit onto Bobcat, specifically that left turn, and then Bobcat turning left on, or, I'm sorry, Trophy Club turning left on Bobcat, and in Parkview turning left on Bobcat, all of those were noted as areas of significant traffic delays. However, one of the things that we do out there is that we do have our police department uses traffic patrol people to be out there to be able to help move traffic a little bit faster. So when cars begin to queue, they're needing to turn left. What they do is they then will stop the traffic in all directions, allow all of those cars to empty, and then traffic to move on. And that we noticed during the observations to be a fairly efficient way to move traffic through that corridor. Oh, one of the other observations that we had that you'll see it on the other slides as well, is that there's really no assistance, there's no traffic patrol that happens for pedestrians or for the vehicles at that South High School exit entrance area. Okay, so that was noted several times as well throughout there. Again, I'll just kind of go through these because during the afternoon, we noticed the same thing, right? Traffic goes in waves and it lasts for anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes or so. When we looked at these other times, and this was the amount of time it took a vehicle to travel through this Bobcat area there, on this day it was significantly less. In other words, the cars were only taking about 2 or 3 minutes to get through the entire area as they moved through it. Sometimes it feels a lot longer when you're in the car. And so what we did specifically was watch cars. How long does it take to get you from one end to the other end as you're traveling through it? Again, the same traffic delay areas, right? Trophy Club turning left onto Bobcat, and that South High School exit onto Bobcat as well was noted as a problem area, as well as the lack of any traffic assistance or pedestrian assistance there at the high school exit entrance area. Yep. Let's see, we'll keep going here, and we're going to move on to Friday. Same things that we kind of noticed. There were a little bit more pedestrians that day. Athletes going across the street, I think for donuts, I think is where they were going. But they were traveling there in larger numbers certainly on that day. And again, as we take a look at the vehicle travel times, they were still in that 2 or 3 minute phase moving through that area. And this day we observed heavier traffic on Marshall Creek as well. All right, so we had issues such as users were not regularly using the crosswalk flasher buttons. Okay, so although the intersection had flashers to be able to stop traffic, it wasn't always that the pedestrians were using those flashers to be able to cross the street. Also had the situation where it observed that when the lights would go off, many vehicles would travel through the flashing lights without stopping on that. So we also noticed that as one of the key findings from it. All right, we're going to get through the rest of these right here. Again, very similar findings as we go through the rest of the day here. And so remembering that where we are in this, right? So we conducted this traffic watch and review. And why we're here tonight is really to identify these key objectives for the next phase moving forward, which is in the process of developing solutions. All right, so what I've done is I've put together on 2 slides here some of the major observations that were noticed and a way to summarize them for the council, for the public, and for those watching. First of all, we noticed that our highest volume periods lasted between 5 and 15 minutes. Okay, again, traffic went in waves during this entire hour-and-a-half segment. The area of highest concern was for pedestrian safety at that South High School exit onto Bobcat. That was where we noticed the largest amount of conflict between vehicles and pedestrians. Areas that had higher traffic delays were at Trophy Club Drive and Bobcat, that South High School exit intersection, Parkview and Bobcat, and Marshall Creek and Bobcat. Traffic delays were primarily being caused by left-hand movements and pedestrian crossings. And that the vehicles not stopping for flashing lights at that South High School exit was noted as a concern during several times during our observation period. We also noticed that in the morning, pedestrians tend to use the Parkview Bobcat side crossing area more than they use the high school side. In the afternoons, they use more of the high school side for the area where they cross the street. Let's see, and in most cases, vehicles were traveling through this zone in just a couple of minutes. We didn't observe a lot of very long delays of people who were entering the traffic, Bobcat area from Trophy Club or coming around from Marshall Creek and really just getting stuck there for large periods of time. Usually 2 to 3 minutes was about the time frame it took a car to go from one side to the other. We also observed that the traffic guards allowing for all the left-hand cars to empty off of a left-hand turn lane was a relatively effective way for us to move traffic. traffic would build up for a little while. Once those traffic cops got in there and they got that moving along, that whole area cleared out and everyone was able to go along their way just fine. Also, we know that traffic levels are being impacted by school events, seasons, weather, all of that's going on. And so in the days that we observed it, at the times that we observed it, we know that those are not the consistent that's not consistently like that over the year. It depends on what the weather's like, what different events are going on, what sports are happening. I'm going to pause right here because these were, again, the major observations and the summary of those that came from the information that the council provided from your feedback and observations. But I wanted to make sure that if there's anything else that we need to be adding to this list, we want to make sure to record that. And so open it up for for some conversation at this point about agreement on this summary list of items and whether or not we need to add other items to that list.
Anyone would like to comment? Luann? Stacy? All right,
Stacy
Dennis.
first before me?
She has nothing to say. Only Dennis has something to
I
say.
do.
No,
I
I'm the only one.
Go for it, Luann.
have a notation.
What?
This is a very important time of pedestrian traffic, but living right there at those intersections, I can tell you that after the 4 o'clock, 4:15 time period that we're looking at, students continue to be involved in activities at Byron Nelson, and they're running out and exiting that parking lot while the commuter traffic picks up. And that is an important element that just being there at the time frame that we're dropping off and picking up doesn't show up. When the commuters start coming from the south to the north and taking a left onto Bobcat from Trophy Club Drive, it's almost an unbroken line. And that runs, and I know the Williams are here in town, they live right there at that intersection, and they're here tonight. I would say that runs for at least a solid 30 to 45 minutes. It runs, what I've observed, about 6:15 to 6:30. And a lot of the students have maybe a holdover for an hour when they're in plays or sports and they don't get out. So when we start getting to the section where we look at solution recommendations, we might want to take our strategy to consider the after-hour activities also.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Good comment. Oh, others?
Okay. Thanks a lot. This is a great presentation and very important to have everybody talk about it. I talking to Christy, one of the crossing guards, one of the experienced crossing guards. The traffic flows while we were out there were kind of lighter than she's expected. So the idea is that they vary day to day, month to month, depending upon the time of year, and also the weather, all right? Rain, shine, whatever. So anything we have here is a microcosm in a certain period of time, and we just need to recognize that. The other thing is, today I was at 377 coming out of Denton and hit Roanoke about somewhere between 8:30 and 8:45, and traffic was stopped up there by the first light.
377.
Byron Nelson, Bobcat coming in. And then it was just wall-to-wall traffic, stop and go. It took me about 4 minutes to get down to Marshall Creek to turn into the Home Depot area. So anyway, that traffic is cutting through Trophy Club. We know that. My comment on all this conversation is that traffic has got to be the lowest priority of anything we deal with. Okay? In other words, we have to concentrate on our citizens who live in the town and that type of thing. That's my opinion. The other thing is we should not pay attention to the first 2 weeks of school. That's when a lot of people contacted me and raising, Cain. But at the same time, that's not the time to talk about this, because that's once again, another microcosm. It's the first, everybody's getting used to school. So the way that, Brandon, you've done it, I think is very important to how we do it. The other thing is, can you explain the laws or rules of the flashing lights? Because I was there, and I listened to Stacy, and she had very comments, and Jeff, and everybody had it, but no one knew what the hell, excuse me, no one knew what the law was on flashing lights. Okay? And
Yeah.
I'm one of those that drive through it if I don't see a pedestrian. So, okay, in this conversation, can we bring that forward?
Sure. In fact, I don't know if Chief Arata is here. There he is right there. I'll have him come up here in a second and explain the laws around it
Okay.
because he's
And
much
that's my
better at it than I am.
comment. Thank you, Brandon.
But I do want to add that as part of this, right, one of the, and we'll get this in the findings section, right? But one of the objectives that we have here to try and achieve is to provide better education to drivers in that area, right? You're bringing up an excellent point. Flashing lights, what does that mean? Right? It can mean very different things to what you think and I think and everyone thinks. And the reality is that the person behind the wheel at the time they were coming up on that flashing lights, that's the last point I have to really learn what that is. And so if I don't already know, I've now missed my opportunity, right? There are ways for us to build more education into the process, right? More signage, more immediate ways for them to realize what they need to do in that moment if they don't already know. But I will bring up Chief Arata to go ahead and explain to you what the law is on that one.
That's very good, because I was just speaking with Chief Arata about our town weekly newsletters and about the great section in there on safety. And this is a great place to begin that little teaching moment.
Now, come on, why are you looking at me when you say teach that moment?
The teaching moment is for Patrick. I'm sorry, Chief. I'm sorry,
No.
Chief.
And we'll put something together, so
Yes.
just in a nutshell.
Right.
The yellow flashing lights are just yellow flashing lights. They're warnings, so you have to yield to pedestrians that are in the crosswalk or preparing to enter the crosswalk. So in a divided roadway, like we sort of have on Bobcat, when the lights are activated and start flashing, if you're on the side with the pedestrian, you have to stop. If the car on the opposite side stops, you have to stop also. But if there's nobody in it, you can keep going once you yield. Right? But once somebody enters the crosswalk, you have to stop. If they're on the opposite side, nothing we can do if you keep going. But once they cross into your side, you have to stop. But if they cross in front of you and pass, you can then move forward. Even though they're still in the crosswalk, you can still enter and continue your travel. So that's it in a nutshell. And we'll put together a training little video or something. We'll work with Jill's team and come up with something.
Cool.
So, but yeah, that's it in a nutshell, unless he wants to get into the technical verbiage. But it's a warning,
Thank you.
so.
But Brandon, you had mentioned putting signs up,
Correct, yeah.
stop for pedestrian or whatever on that. And if you want to expand on that.
Sure. Can you give me a minute to do that?
Oh, absolutely.
Until the very
I'm
end
not pushing.
on it, because we will cover that here in just one second about the objectives for the next phase on that. Were there any other questions that you had, Mayor Pro Tem?
One question on
Oh, please, yeah.
pedestrians. Did you know how many had bicycles?
I think we noted only a couple bikes. One of them that was causing an issue in the roadway. I know we commented on that one, but
That one was not a child.
that one was not a child.
And also, when I observed earlier in the spring, there were more bicyclers than there were this particular time. So I think the weather prevents the bicycles.
Correct, yeah. And they were a little bit colder days, a little bit wet one of the days for sure
Yeah.
on that. And we know that probably had an impact on the number of people that we saw, both walking and riding their bikes.
I just have a comment, and this is a school environment. So parents are kind of trained to know that it's going to take them time to get their students to school, to drop them off. They probably know that there's going to be some stop and starts. I kind of call it the cost of doing business. So it was interesting to watch the traffic, because there was not, it didn't take very long to get from A to, but I guess if you're sitting in the traffic, you think it's forever. But when we're watching it, it's very short. And I'm just saying that we're in a high traffic environment for schools during the school year. And it's an expectation that there are going to be starts and stops. Is that right?
Yep.
Just kind of the way it is.
No, you're right. And first of all, bring up the fact that how many students go to Byron, how many students we have in that area. But the other thing is, not all that thousands of people that live over in the Highlands over on that side of town whichever way I'm pointing, have kids
Correct.
and they go to work
That's true.
and they come home from work and they're impacted by whatever we do or don't do in this situation. So, it's one thing to talk to a parent and say, well, hell, excuse me, that school is there, right? And there's 3,000 kids going to Byron, so there's going to be traffic. Versus another, to talk to somebody who's going to work and doesn't have kids and has to go through that traffic. So I just asking that to be considered in the conversation.
Yeah, and going back to kind of the initial goals that we have, right? Really our goals, that there's two main goals that we have as we take a look at this Bobcat corridor, right? One of them is how can we move traffic as efficiently as possible? The second goal is how do we keep the pedestrians as safe as possible? Right now, realizing that those two goals that sometimes are at odds with each other, it's about finding the right mix to be able to address both the best way that we can with it. So really, again, we know that people traveling through that zone want to move as quickly as possible. We want them to be able to move through that area as efficiently as possible. We also want to keep the area as safe as it can be on that. And so developing a good traffic plan is important to making sure that we address both of those concerns and not overriding one that compromises the other on it. And that's been the trick that we're trying to figure out about how to improve the traffic situation on Bobcat.
Yeah, but I'm also going to make the comment, just like parents, we have many people living in the Highlands in the back, and they live there because they want to. And they know they live there because they also know that in the morning and the evening they're going to deal with traffic. And it's amazing how many people that I do know who love living as far away from 114 as they can get. Mm-hmm. And they don't mind the traffic. So it's just kind of a way we get around in Trophy Club. So I think we have a lot of residents who are very amenable to helping us make this work in such a way that it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah. So as we take a look at the key objective considerations, right? We started off with identifying the problems, then we went to, okay, what were the major observations that we had from those study periods? Now we get to the point of what are our key objectives moving forward? Okay, remembering that the next step in this is to develop solutions. It's very difficult to develop solutions if we don't have the key objectives that we're trying to achieve. In other words, how do we know if we've been successful? All right, so from that, I've developed this list right here, again, based on the observations that we have, and I've taken notes on the others that were noted here this evening, and we'll make sure to include those items in the list of consideration for it. But from those key objectives, these are the things that we would ask for in the design of solutions. Number one, that we identify solutions for improved traffic flow and pedestrian safety at that South High School exit onto Bobcat. And that's the area that we were primarily most concerned about, right? That is an area that we need to see a good solution for improved traffic flow and for pedestrian safety. Second of all, that we identify solutions for left-hand turning movements all over that zone. Okay, so essentially if you're turning left anywhere on Bobcat, related to Bobcat, we need to figure out what's the best way for us to be able to do that. We need to identify solutions to minimize pedestrian crossing delays. Okay, so as students come to and from school, they're going to be crossing the street. Every time you're crossing the street, right, presents another opportunity for conflict, both between vehicles and pedestrians. It also slows down the vehicle traffic during that time. Identifying solutions for improved compliance with vehicle stopping for pedestrian crosswalks. This gets back to what Mayor Pro Tem was mentioning there just before, right? In other words, there are rules around this. There are ways that we can kind of influence that in the moment. Signage, things on the road, different techniques to the road. There are things that you can do to help educate the person who may not know at that time what the rule is around flashing lights to naturally want to stop because of what's going on around them, or they see something that helps educate them quickly. And then identifying other traffic control solutions. This one's important, right? To determine if any of the options provide substantial improvements over the current traffic guard controlled movements. In other words, right now we have it at many of the intersections, we have guards out there and they're allowing traffic to move. And that seems to work pretty well, right? Are things like stoplights, traffic lights, roundabouts, or any other solution that can be devised, is that a better solution than what we currently have in place? If we're going to be spending, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars on improvements, we'd like to be able to say it's going to cause a substantial increase, or at least an increase in any degree over what it is that we currently have today with the guard-controlled intersections. So the idea here is that with these objectives, right, we turn that over to a firm that studies traffic. And in fact, the one that we're looking at right now is a well-known firm, happens to help out with a lot of the busier retail areas in South Lake to be able to help make sure that traffic moves efficiently and that pedestrians remain safe for that. Having them come in, take a look at at our area here, understand what these objectives are, and begin that process of moving forward. Before I move on, though, I want to make sure that we have, essentially, if we are able to answer these questions at the next time that we meet for a debrief with this, will this meet what the goals of the council in understanding the types of solutions that would be brought forward to address the traffic concerns of Bobcat? So if you have any other objectives that you want us to try and meet, now's an opportunity for us to hear about those.
That's you. No? In the course of the study, in the course of the
Please.
study, we really didn't look at how the traffic flowed down her street and then down Morgan to avoid the intersection. And whoever we have study this is gonna have to take that into consideration. Because we don't wanna push the traffic off of the main roads, which are Bobcat and Trophy Club Drive, into the neighborhoods if we don't.
Okay. Yeah, so understanding the impact to, you're exactly right. We don't want to cause traffic on our more major roads to start diverting onto our more neighborhood roads, right, in the middle of all this. Good point.
Yes, sir.
I got a couple things. I may be jumping ahead. You're heading towards a traffic study of some form. And before you did that, would you give a history of all the money or whatever we've already spent doing traffic studies?
Sure.
And that type of thing. So that's the previous. The other is also bring in to how we're going to get citizen input into this.
Well,
Because from where you're at and where you're going, okay?
Yep.
Those are a couple questions.
Sure. So question number one, how much have we been spending, right, on different studies? So you might be surprised to know over the last year, we've actually spent almost $80,000 on studies, both traffic and design work, right, beginning design work around roundabouts there in this corridor. So we've already spent about $80,000, right? And what I would argue is that we're still kind of a little ways away from trying to understand what our key objectives are and what it is that we're trying to achieve here in this area, and making sure that we've looked at a range of solutions of how that works. And that's why this next step is important, right? Because and it's on another slide, but it's a little less than $25,000 for this study for us to do this. However, I think at that point, I think we'll have a lot clearer understanding of exactly the range of solutions that are available to us. Anything from some personnel costs to some more minor upgrades in equipment, signage, things like that, on it that might not cost millions of dollars in infrastructure needed to be able to address the problems in this area.
So following up on that,
Please.
can you break the $80,000 roughly into what could be categorized as pure kind of study that we're going to be moving forward with here again, versus money spent on considerations for roundabouts, plans, whatever?
Sure. It looks to be, and I was not here participating in all these studies, so I can't answer the question perfectly. But if I had to take a look at the way it's coded here, we're probably at about, for roundabout design style work, we're probably right around $30,000 on that, and then the remainder of that kind of being more in the study zone, so traffic studies and things like that.
so is that PNP study that we looked at a couple,
That is correct, yes.
that was the study?
That was one of those here. Mhm.
Okay, thanks.
Mayor?
Go ahead.
All right. Is there a difference between the study that you're proposing and the study of the traffic counts that we just spent a lot of money on?
Yeah, and there is, that's an excellent question. Thank you for bringing that up. So the solution I'm proposing at this point is might as well just go to the slide since there we go, is a traffic control plan for the area, okay? So that's different than a traffic study, right? A traffic study is gonna go out and count cars, number of times you're turning left. And that's an important thing for us to understand, right? But really what we're looking for are what are the types of traffic control solutions that we have to be able to better move traffic in this area? A lot of times what you do in the government world, if I want to know if I should put in a stoplight or a traffic light or what that thing might be, I do a warrant study. So in other words, I go out and I determine whether or not the traffic in that area warrants the use of a stop sign or a traffic light or something like that. That's a little bit of a different question than what's the best solution in this area. And that's what a traffic control plan kind of comes up for. It gives you, eliminate left-hand turn lanes at this time, install signage here, right? There are different solutions to be able to address the problems that you have in front of you with traffic.
So it would seem like that the previous work that was done, some portion of it might be beneficial to them. Right?
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of work that's been done. Now we got to figure out what's the best solution. But so is there going to be, what's the plan to
share that information. Yep, yeah. So we are going to be sending over all the work that we have. Now they're going to still go out and verify with it, as every every good consulting company does. They're going to want to verify those things, and so but they'll be able to certainly reduce the cost because of the use of that data will help support what they're doing on that. It won't be the only way that they're going to be collecting that information, but it will definitely address some of those issues for us. So we are able to bring down the price because of the previous work that we've done in that area in counting traffic.
So the previous, but the traffic reports that we've had, the latest one, 2021, and the previous ones before that, all they did was tell us the counts. This is going to tell us some possible solutions to go along with the counts.
That is correct. Yeah, this one's more focused around presenting solutions for traffic flow.
Versus just broad
The data
Okay.
saying is a stop sign appropriate or is a traffic light appropriate in this area?
And
or
so-
a roundabout.
And so also what you're saying is we spent $30,000 on a solution before we knew what that was the solution, i.e. a roundabout.
Correct, yeah, yeah.
Is
Yeah,
there any-
I think along the way, I think when we kind of go to the solution first and then we're trying to back our way into it, right? Sometimes we get ourselves a little bit mixed up on it. And so as we take a step back and we try and make sure that we've identified the problems first, now solve our problems for us in whatever range of options you have. That's what we're going to be asking them to do.
Good.
How do you factor in the new stadium?
So that's a good point, right? And we'll use the stadium as an example. However, over the next 10, 15, 20 years, who knows how development in that area is going to change, right? At the end of the day, traffic is something that is going to change over time. The solution that we're going to look at today is going to address the situation that we have in front of us. Now, what we know is that as traffic changes over time, one of the things you need to do periodically when you have, and this is what they do in areas that have high retail areas like that South Lake area. When they put in new businesses, new areas, they're going to update the plan to make sure that it's still relevant. I think there are opportunities for us to, if there are major changes in the future, we need to make sure that we're taking a look at updating the plan to be able to make sure that we are still accounting for what's happening today, the situation if they start changing school times on us, right? There are so many factors that can go into impacting traffic here on it that we can't possibly account for them all. We'll do the very best that we can to predict some of those things in the way that we move traffic. And that's why when we come down to it, infrastructure is very, very difficult. Once we install infrastructure, it's very, very difficult for us to change that in an inexpensive way. So finding whatever solutions we can without doing a substantial amount of infrastructure allows us to be more adaptable in the future to what's going on.
The impact's going to start during construction
Yeah. It sure will.
You mean with the
with the stadium.
stadium?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments, observations? What do you like? What do you not like? What do you like about the
I'm
process?
hoping he's going to continue. We're not
Yeah.
done yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm just going to tell you right now, I like the process, so.
No, but I'm.
Keep
I'm
on going.
citizen
So real
input,
quick, yep.
And you know that's coming.
Yep.
Yeah.
So real quick, yep. So that's going back to this 6-phase project side of it, right? So we are now going to move into the develop solutions phase. One thing that I appreciate during this meeting, right, it's so tempting for everyone, is that once we start talking about a problem, we want to immediately start jumping into solutions on it, right? We haven't talked anything about solutions yet, right? We've only talked about identifying the problem, identifying our objectives. Now we're going to rely on some professionals to help us develop some solutions, but we're not just going to do that. Going back to Mayor Pro Tem's comment, right? Then after we're done with the developing solutions part, we're going to come back to the town council and we're going to debrief you on the range of solutions. Once that looks like it's an acceptable list of solutions, you don't have to choose anything during that meeting. We're not asking you to, actually. The next step is that community input and surveys. All right, we're going to take those out. We're going to go to the community and say, help us know if this looks like solutions that are good for the town on it. So we'll do some survey work around that. We'll get some public input meetings going on. But we hope to be able to engage the residents in determining whether or not the solutions that have been developed are anticipated to meet the needs of the residents. Okay, and they're going to have to then justify why it is that they, that this is the recommendation or that's the recommendation, and we'll work our way through that process. When we're all done with that, we'll take the public input, we'll take the solutions that have been generated, we might make some revisions to them based on the feedback from our residents, and then we're going to come back to the town council, ultimately looking for a path forward on a recommendation for how it is that we help improve the traffic there on Buckeye.
At the stage of developing solutions, that solutions will be developed. I assume, probably a bad thing, but will there be financial backing of, we have these 5 solutions and solution A is going to be 200,000.
Yes.
Solution E is going to be 6 million. So all of the range of solutions will have financial data estimates.
That is correct, yes. Yep, yeah. Each one of the solutions will have on that, and we'll make sure to try and include even the ones that we think these aren't great solutions, but we're going to make sure that it's included in the range to help us understand what that cost looks like and what it is that the impact will look like from that.
I have a question. Will the consultant help in designing the surveys and the questionnaires for the community?
We haven't, right now, we have not scoped that into their scope of work on that part. I'd anticipated working internally with our staff to be able to generate most of
Okay.
that survey work.
Okay.
On that, I think we'll probably be able to do that part of it.
Okay.
Timeline, so I mentioned before, that study is just under $25,000. We are looking for those developing solutions for our key objectives, right? The cost analyses that we talked about, implementation timelines as well. Each one of these has a different range as far as how long it will take to go from A to Z on completing that particular improvement. At this point, we anticipate that schedule will take us through about June. So we would go ahead and engage the engineering firm, move all the way through June through that study with the idea that we will be coming before the town council in July, particularly at the July 15th meeting, for the opportunity to debrief you on all of that. Now, if we're moving along faster, we will absolutely move it along faster for it, but July 15th, you can count on that date as being the one for sure, the last date that we would go ahead and bring out to the town council for consideration.
So go back one slide if you don't mind. So that July 15th is step 6?
No,
That is step 4.
Step 4.
Step
Okay,
4,
that's
and
a
then-
debrief. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
And then we would do remainder of July and
yeah.
August into the timeline for the survey work,
Yeah.
right? And then back in September to the town council for a final recommendation there.
I have a question.
Please.
This is a process, obviously. Is there any interim solutions in the immediate future for right now?
Yeah, so I go back to this just real quick for it. So as we were out there, I think we all noticed things that we said to ourselves, we can go ahead and we see this as a problem. This might be something that we would do right now for it. One of the issues that we run into, right, is that we don't know what the impact of that has on other things for it. I think the answer to that question is I think we would be more comfortable sitting where we are right now and allowing us to get to this study phase before we start to enact any of those recommendations that we observed during the time. But let's make sure that we clearly understand what the traffic and impact would look like from those different things before we go ahead and put the investment into whether it's hiring personnel and things like that. These are kind of longer term solutions that we don't want to make a step and then realize I wish we'd done it a little bit differently. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, Dennis.
All right, thinking along that line, here we are in the middle of February. If you were to try and increase the number of crossing guards by 1, 2, or whatever, how long does that take? Well, I'm thinking it does, but I'm just saying, so if somebody's screaming for a solution today, even though the council said go do it, you're still, 3 months away from
Possibly.
implementing?
We just had one resign. We opened it up. I think there was 2 applicants in the queue we haven't started to look at yet. But who knows if they're even viable applicants. So it could take months to get somebody on board. to get them up to speed. And once we brought them on board.
Right, so even if our motive and our wishes were to try and do something, it's going to be May and school's going to be out before anything could possibly happen. So along the lines of what Councilman Bear was talking about, I'm for that. But at the same time, I'm thinking of August.
Well, it gets back to what you were saying, Brandon. You know, one might say, well, let's add 2 more crossing guards.
Yeah.
Well, do we even know if that is an issue, if that solves anything, if it
don't.
doesn't solve anything?
Well, what
I mean,
remember the
yeah,
roundabout?
absolutely. So where I'm coming from, coming to this, all right? Can we modify the process to be able to implement something with the opening of school next year in August? Or in other words, here we are, we're going to have this briefing on July, and then we're not going to really do anything until, August, and and that means nothing's going to happen until January. So therefore, all the citizens are still sitting there, okay.
Yeah, that would be, that would be our.
Can we think that
would be our
along that
goal.
line?
That would be our goal. What would be that, whatever solutions we are able to put in place at the beginning of the school year, that we begin those as soon as we can with the beginning of the school year on
Even
that
if
part.
it's-
Certainly that is one of the goals.
Even if it's just temporary.
Correct, exactly.
Putting a person there at the first of school, the first 2 weeks are always hectic anyway. There's obviously a need of something to happen. We just don't know what the answer is. So even a temporary solution by August would be better than no solution.
Oh, absolutely. And remember that, again, by this point, we've had a council debrief, we're getting public input, right? At this point, we're beginning to understand where we're going a lot clearer in the July, August timeline than where we are today with that. And so, absolutely, right? At that point, we can begin planning on the future, right? Preparing, getting staffing parts ready in place to be geared up as soon as possible, for that. We aren't going to sit clueless until August. We will be learning along the way and developing those range of solutions. And don't forget that we'll also be having budget conversations during this whole time as well, right? So we'll be talking about, we anticipate doing this and this and this next year, because we're not going to wait a whole year just to get into the budget process, right? We'll anticipate as we move through that, the development of the police department budget for that.
I said this to you in our meeting, but I think it deserves to be said. Having a conversation with our people at Byron, the principal, Watkins, Northcutt, they can help educate. And I think education is key here when you're dealing with 16 and 17-year-old drivers.
Yeah.
So part of that is not necessarily on us, but I think we can do our due diligence and help educate those drivers and maybe help the situation along, because it's not all the traffic, it's some of the driving. Just saying.
For sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Other comments? Other comments? Any other questions to Brandon, our town manager? Carl, Jeff?
Nope.
Okay.
Well then, guess
Thank you.
what? Adjourn 6:43, and we will re-adjourn at 7 o'clock for our meeting. Thank you.
Oh,
So I'll get the.
Tracy,
9.
that's live, so that's what I meant. Okay, talk to you later.
It's 7 o'clock, and it's February the 12th, 2024, and I'm calling to our council meeting. And we have a quorum, it looks like. Everyone's here. Good to see everyone. Seems like it's been a while. I would again like to say thank you to those who watch us online. I continue to sell the opportunity to know what's going on in our town online. If you do not want to come in, please watch us, and you can have the opportunity to know what's going on. I would like for us to stand, please, and Carl Munger will open the evening for us.
Are we having an invocation? Okay. The town council was privileged this last week to participate in a ceremony that nobody ever wants to participate in. And that was observing the passing of a Navy SEAL, active duty Navy SEAL, native of Trophy Club. That's a pretty small community. There are not very many Navy SEALs. And to be a community where a Navy SEAL came from, graduated from high school at, and then passed away in service to the country, it's even more difficult because he was lost at sea. And so the family doesn't have anybody that they can bury. So it's incredibly difficult. And so the mayor asked me if I would just recognize and remember Naval Warfare Special Operator Second Class Nathan Gage Ingram tonight. And I'd like to have a moment of silence and reflect on, after we're done, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. And I know Councilmember Sheridan has, I have 18 of my friends that were buried with the flag over their coffin, having died in service. And that, it means something. When I look at the flag, when I hear taps, it means something. When I pledge allegiance to the flag, it means something. And so think about the cost of that sacrifice, the cost of that pledge, as we honor our nation after a moment of silence. Thank you. Please join me as we honor our nation. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge
allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. And remain seated, please, for prayer.
Thanks for tonight, for this time, for this council, our town, those that protect us, those that serve us, those that lead us. Bless them, protect them, give them wisdom and courage. Bless the meeting tonight. May we love one another and care about those that you care about. Be good neighbors and serve one another well. Thank you for your love. All our blessings, help us to be generous and kind. Through Jesus I pray. Amen.
We appreciate you, Joel.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Carl.
Do we have any?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
The first speaker, Glenn Smith, 13 Jamie Court.
Good evening. My name is Glenn Smith. I live 13 Jamie Court. I have lived there for about 12 years now, and do appreciate you guys hearing me out. And thank you for what you do for our city. I really appreciate it. As I said, moved here in about 2012. About 5 years ago, I started having significant amounts of water come onto my property. I looked on Google Maps at the elevation, and so behind my property going what I would call upriver or upstream, there's probably 15 houses that back up to that. Didn't notice it for about the first 6 or so years that I was here. Would get runoff from my property when it rained real hard. It would stand a little in my backyard. But 5 or 6 years ago, started seeing it come onto my property. I've got a video that I've shared with some of the others here that are going to speak, that it is a significant amount of water. You would not be surprised if I showed you the video and said a water main burst behind my house. I mean, it is a lot of water moving on. So I've got a couple of issues. One is just the water coming through my property. It's killed most all of my grass, any shrubs that are in the way, it takes those out. This happens probably 5 or 6 times of the year in the heaviest rains. Normal rains, I still get water standing, and it still, some comes onto my property. So the water moving across my backyard is one issue. It's just destructive. I can't keep anything alive. And then the other issue is the drain off from my property. I'm at the very bottom of this elevation, as I said. The back of my property backs up to this open field here behind HG Supply. And so it, even 5 or 6 years ago, started standing at my fence line just because of the amount that would come through. When the, I guess, road, for lack of a better term, the water line was put in, that increased the issue with water standing and not running off my property. I do have a French drain that was there when I moved into the house, but I had a contractor come look, and I asked him to give me some options, and he said, you got too much water coming on your property for a French drain that size to get it, to move it all off. And so it takes probably 2.5 to 3 hours to eventually get the water off my property, sometimes a little longer than that. So that's the issue. I just wanted to bring it up, and maybe, I guess the request I would have is that someone from the city just come over and take a serious look that's familiar with the elevation around the property and the history of that, and maybe give me some options. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Can we ask where Jamie Court is?
Jamie Court, would you please tell him again? It's
Yes.
Right here.
What was the specific address? I'm sorry.
13 Jamie Court.
And you
Right
back,
behind Town Hall.
Mr.
Yes.
HG
Okay,
Supply.
that's all I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
That yes,
It
Okay,
backs
thank
into
you.
Hillcrest.
yes, Silcrest, your street.
Next, we have
Thanks.
several. Richard Beatty,
What was the last name again?
Beatty.
Beatty.
Hello, I see some familiar faces here. My name is Richard Beatty, and I live in the property right behind poor Glenn's house, and I'm actually above him on an elevation, not to the side, but behind, off of Hillcrest Court. I was just trying to give a little information. I bought my property in 1979, and I walked it before they even had streets out there, so I've been there a long time. I built in 1980 and was the first one that built on that property. I am way down at the end of Hillcrest Court. The way water used to drain, and this was when I moved in before anything was moved around way back in 1980, is that it would come down through the back side of the Hillcrest Court area. It would go right out to my next door, up to my next door neighbor, about 5 feet into their property, and then it would immediately go right out to the back. And the two houses, Glenn's house and the one that's right next to it, is where the water flowed out, and it always had done that. I ended up I had a fence up there put in 1980, and I never had any water drain through the back of my property. I moved dirt around and stuff so that way I could go out my gate. You were at my house, Mayor,
Yes, I
and
was
you.
telling Dennis
Yes.
we were there.
And you saw, how everything flows out to the, HG Supply Swamp area out there and stuff. But that was historically how the drainage used to be. Nobody on the street had any problems with flooding or anything until they built behind us on Jamie Court. And I remember talking with Hap Baggett. He was the one, and if anybody's a friend of him, yes, he was like a used car salesman. Anyway, I told him, because I would always look out, and every time it rained, I could see that whole area being under swamp and area, and I said, you need to have some sort of drainage. And he said, well, I will go ahead and build some sort of berms that will divert the water. Well, he never did. And unfortunately, all the two houses, Glenn's house and his neighbor next to him, gets all the water from the hill. The water did increase after they built the houses because it had no place to flow out, number one. And number two, it seems like there's a lot more that came off the hill. The back of Inverness, the back of their properties up there, I think slopes down, and then it comes all the way around to Hillcrest Court and then out through poor Glenn's place. And that's historically what's happened. So hopefully something can be resolved. I hate anybody getting flooded out front or back of their house. So that's all I have to say.
What was your address again?
Okay.
The address again, please.
18 Hillcrest
Thank you.
Court.
Yes, he has a beautiful backyard.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you very much. Others?
Next is Tim Humphreys.
Good evening. My name is Tim Humphreys. I live at 15 Hillcrest Court. We've lived there for about 4 or 5 years now. I think it was 8 months after we purchased the house, our house flooded. We weren't aware that there was a flood issue when we bought the property. We were aware of it once it came through our living room. You can't even set the trash in the street when it rains. It flows down our driveway. So I have to make sure there's no leaves in my driveway, no trash. The way the property used to flow, there was a drainage easement that cuts around the back of our house. But over time, I believe since the pools have been put up a long time ago, that the dirt was all pushed up against the drainage easement. And over time, since we're kind of up on the hill, the easement has created a river, in a sense, that kind of bounces off the houses versus going straight down the line to the street. So I've studied the rain every time. I work from home. I could answer any questions, regarding where the property flows to and probably the way it should. But it's not flowing. Everything is going to the easement, but the easement's not functioning the way it should.
Thank you. You know that we cannot speak to it. Okay. Thank you so much.
Next, you have James Jenka.
What was the name again?
James Jenka.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thanks for the time
Hello.
here tonight. James Janka, 11 Hillcrest Courts. This might surprise everyone, but here to talk about the drainage issue on Hillcrest Court.
Is anyone home?
Exactly, yeah. Having a town party here, or street party, I should say. So as everyone had mentioned, my home is at the end of Hillcrest Court where it meets Indian Creek. Like some of the other folks, we've taken on water multiple times since we moved in back in 2018. So we can definitely kind of talk about that, but between last couple of years, myself and my wife have spent over $40,000 on remediation items to correct this issue, and we're still having problems. I would say when it rains, for the most part, I'm up throughout the night just to see if there's any issues. I have multiple more portable sump pumps to pump out water whenever it does flood our backyard. And even to this day, there seems to be an ongoing issue of a water leak somewhere. I've been pumping out water from my shutoff valve next to my home, as well as the water meter box. And I've talked to them about a couple of times. They're limited to what they can do. They kind of say, hey, there's not much they can do just from the regard of, what their capabilities are. I've talked to code enforcement a few times. They've mentioned as well, they're limited on what they can do as well. And I guess the one issue too is I've noticed, not only other individuals in town, but also myself, as the weather does increase, there seems to be an algae sludge on that standing water on Hillcrest as well as Indian Creek. And I've noticed a few folks have slipped on there. I have slipped myself a few times as well. So it seems between that, there's also some separation in the concrete. So some issues to the road itself that are causing those problems. So just wanted to, I guess, one, make sure the town was aware of this, which I'm sure most of you folks are, because if you drive down Indian Creek, you see the standing water there. But then two, just to see if there's any type of items that can be addressed, just to kind of maybe group everyone together just to see what this issue is. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, James. Appreciate it.
Next is Mindy Connolly.
Hello, I'm Mindy Connolly, and I live at 22 Hillcrest, which happens to be on top of the hill of all my neighbors that are talking about their houses flooding.
So it's your water.
Yes. No, it's not my water. No, it's not my water. But I know that because I've lived there 20 years, and I have not moved my drainage. But I have watched my neighbors over the years, and the houses sell, and my neighbors, especially Tim, was like, why didn't anybody tell me that this house flooded? And I'm like, because it didn't. It didn't. But over the years, as the development has happened and Jamie Court happened and all of the hotels and the restaurants and the road and everything else, and this used to be woods where we're standing now, and HG Supply used to be woods, and Jamie Court used to be woods, and it absorbed a lot more water that now has to have a place to go, and the road was 2 lanes out here. And so I watch my neighbors from my hill, when it rains, not put their trash out, get brooms and push the water away from their curbs because it just drains down and into all their driveways and then into their backyards. I watched Jimmy siphon water out of his neighbor's non-driveway because there's been an issue there and she hasn't been able to put the driveway back because there's too much water. I see him siphon it out because she's not home. I see them get their leaves out of their gutter and do everything else, maintain their sump pumps to try to make sure that the water doesn't flood their houses over and over again. And so I am here on behalf of my neighbors to go, I love my street. Obviously, we're a tight-knit group, and they need some help. So I hope that our city will remedy the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Mindy, another?
Jan Beatty?
Hello, y'all. Thank you. Thank you. My name is Jan Beatty.
Glad
I'm
to
at
have you.
18, thank you. I'm at 18 Hillcrest Court, and I'm not very good at speaking, so I just wrote what I've actually texted to some of my friends. We've always referred to the area behind our house, which is Jamie Court, as the boys' forest swamp to play in. Funny and fun for them, but not so funny now. We've seen our neighbors flooded out anywhere from 3 to 5 times, and the total devastation to both their houses and their morale. 3 houses have been sold 4 to 5 times specifically due to the excess flooding. We would just like the city to do something in effect to this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jan.
And you have one more, Jean Thee? Jean Thee.
Oh. Don't want that F on there.
No, don't put that F on there. My name's Gene Thee. I live at 16 Hillcrest, which is right across the street from Mindy. She lives about 20 feet up from me. And my door is actually probably 5 or 6 feet below the street line. So when the street floods, guess where all the water goes? My wife has PTSD from the shop vac going in the house at 6 in the morning. So we've been flooded about 4 times, and it's like our street just can't handle all the water. And we'd like to see this become an agenda item and see what happens on that street, how we can fix these things. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is that it?
Yes, ma'am.
I know I'm not supposed to speak, but may I ask a question? Has this issue been brought to the town before from your?
No. This is the first time Hillcrest has come in.
Thank you. That's all I want to know. Thanks. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay.
Well, the Wade Hampton, I was going to get into that in a second.
Okay. Thank you very much. We're not permitted to, you understand, discuss this or take action, but we appreciate you bringing it to our attention. And this is just the right time to do it. Thank you. All right. We'll go on to our community spotlight. And I'd like to invite Gene Popick to the podium because I know he's been waiting quite a long time for this. I'm so happy to have you, Gene, and you have such a great audience. Maybe they'll stay here and listen, do you think?
Thank you. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thank you so much.
Madam Mayor, Town Council, my fellow citizens, tonight what I want to do is, as they like to say in the vernacular, give you a 30,000-foot view of the Trophy Club Emergency Volunteer Association. First of all, what are we and why do we exist? We exist for one purpose, and that is to support the town of Trophy Club through the Trophy Club Police Department and the Trophy Club Fire Department. We have approximately 28 dedicated members, all of which are trained to do the job that I'm going to explain to you. First of all, one of our most important things is that we are a 501c3 organization. That means that we can go out and solicit contributions, in turn give the contributor a tax deduction certificate, and we can turn around and donate what is given to us to other organizations, such as the police department and the fire department. Now, we can accept money, cash, or we can get supplies, which you hear a little bit about later. We provide these services and these donations to the various departments. They're items that are not included in the city budget. No funds have been set aside for them, and they need to have it. I'll give you an example of one of the ones that we donated, and that was a grill to the fire department. They needed to have an outside grill. It worked out fine for me. It was not in the city budget. We in turn raised the funds and got it for them. Now, we also provide education. We provide education and member training. We offer on-job experience and public exposure through the police and fire joint academies, the citizens academies. We are totally non-political, non-partisan, and we're completely diverse in our membership. We are completely volunteer. None of our people get paid to do any of the jobs that we do. We absolutely have no law enforcement authority. And just in case you're wondering, when we're on patrol, we do not carry weapons. We are not sworn officers. We're from the community, for the community. We assist the town of Trophy Club through some specific programs designed to work in conjunction with the Public Safety Department and the first responders. Specifics, we solicit charitable contributions for programs and educational purposes. We offer a yearly scholarship program. Approximately $2,500 every year is donated to or set up for scholarships for our first responders' children. We have professional development information. We work with the other areas within the town of Trophy Club, other organizations that might need our help. Instruction, we offer qualification training programs in police and fire, and it's all done within the TCEVA. This is all done under the guidelines of the police department, the fire department, and the Trophy Club policy. We review the policies that have been set down, and we make sure that we stay within the lines of those policies. One of the other things that we do is we help the citizens that are interested in learning more about public safety with the joint academies, the police academy and the fire academy for the citizens. That's offered about once a year. Something very, very important. All activities of the TCEVA are subject to the approval of the chiefs of the police department and fire department. If we, within our organization, decide that we'd like to go out and try something, can't do it until we sit down and we talk to the chiefs. We got to make sure that they buy off on it. We're always looking for new members. We've got 3 specific types of volunteer open. Number 1, we've got the general volunteer. The people that qualify for general membership, they can work in any program that we've got except Citizens on Patrol and the fire rehab. Now, what do we require? We require that, number 1, you got to be 21 years of age. You got to pass a background check. You've got to pass a fingerprint background check. You've got to live or work within the confines of Trophy Club or in the contiguous vicinities. So any of the other communities around us that are adjacent, we can accept them to be members. People that apply need to be approved by the TCEVA board. And once they're approved, then they're sent to the police chief and the fire chief. Both chiefs have got to sign off on the individual. And the other requirement is that they've got to attend at least 10 to 12 meetings every year. One of the basic things that we do and how we serve is through the police department, and we have the COP program, Citizens on Patrol. We provide safety patrols. We are the eyes and the ears of the sworn officers. We do street patrols and neighborhood patrols. Now, if we were to patrol the entire area of Trophy Club, it would take us 6 to 7 hours to do that patrol. What we do is we get ourselves into the communities, into the subdivisions, to where the police traffic is not that heavy, but we still need to put some eyes and ears out there. That frees up the police, the regular sworn officers, to be able to go out onto the busy areas and do what they need to do to protect our citizens. We do school patrols. We assist with the morning arrival and afternoon departures and arrivals of students. Now, that handles from 7 in the morning till 9, and then we do from 2 until 5 every day. Traffic control. We'll assist the sworn officers with traffic control during emergencies. If they've got an emergency stop, they might ask us to come in and block off traffic, and we get involved in that area. Vacation watches. Vacation watches is a big thing in our town. People go on vacation, they let us know that they're going to be gone, and we drive by just to make sure. We don't get out of the car. Our people do not get out of the car. We drive by and we just check that if we see some vandalism. Now, I can tell you firsthand experience. My partner and myself were on patrol during the cold weather and the ice snap that we had. And we were over on Salata, and as we're driving by, we stopped to check the house, and it looked like Niagara Falls coming down the driveway. The pipes had busted. Well, we've got emergency contact information that we can get a hold of the party. And the first thing that we did was we called MUD. Second thing that we did was to get a hold of the individual and help him understand what was going on so he could do what he needed to do. Vacation watches are very important. We also do business patrols after 8 o'clock at night. A lot of the businesses close down. We drive by we hit every single business in the town every single evening. That includes the hotels, the shopping centers, the restaurants. During the summertime, we like to do parking lot patrols. Like to drive through and it's 105 degrees outside to see if anybody's stuck in a car. Oftentimes an individual might have an animal in there or a child or something, and we just want to make sure that we cover that particular area. We help with the transport of police units for anything that they need to get the unit enhanced or for repairs. We do administrative duties within the confines of the police department. And then if there's any special requests that the chiefs have got, we get involved in that. One thing, while we're on patrol, we have a direct line to Denton County Dispatch, either through the radio or with a telephone, just like everybody else. So we don't have to wait in line to get a hold of anybody. We can contact our officers directly also if we have to. Now, we just don't take our volunteers and throw them out on the street and say, okay, you're a COP and this is what you got to do. We train our COPs very extensively. First of all, they've got to meet all the standard membership. Then they've got to have a valid driver's license. And then we take them and we give them 4 hours of ground school. And that definitely includes the town policies, the police department policies, and the fire department policies. 3 Supervised patrols, approximately 9 hours, 3 hours each. The person is taught how to be an observer. And then taught the correct way to drive. We don't drive through the neighborhoods at 20 miles an hour. We drive through the neighborhoods at maybe 5 miles an hour, maybe 8 miles an hour, because you can't see anything if you're going too fast. And one of our things is to observe. We like to have our windows down, so we make sure that if there's something going on, we're going to hear it. Night patrol is extremely interesting. Trophy Club looks entirely different at night than what it does during the day. And we make sure that our COPs are qualified to be able to identify something at night. And the business patrols, because we only do business patrols at night. We require at least one ride-along with a sworn officer. We also require that they attend the Police and Fire Academy when it's offered. Now, that one particular thing does not hold them up from being qualified. It will qualify them, but it's provisional until they take the academy. And then, if there's any additional training that's required by the chief, we make sure that they get that. And a lot of times, some of the training might be with a sworn officer. And then we have periodic refresher trainings. Now, how do we serve the fire department? Anybody ever hear of fire rehab? Do you know what fire rehab is? Fire rehab is there to take care of the firefighters when they come out of a fire. They can probably work about 15 minutes in a fire, and then with all that gear on, the turnout gear and all that weight, they're bushed. They've got to have some place to come and sit down and get out of the gear, cool off, take some refreshments. We provide that. Now, for fire rehab team membership, again, they've got to have all the regular membership things. They've got to have a valid driver's license. There might be some specific training that Chief Weiss wants to do, and they have to have the attendance at the Police and Fire Academy. We encourage a ride-along, and then there's periodic refresher training. We have the fire team, the fire rehab team has got on-call system alerts on our telephones. If there's a fire and the fire is dispatched, our fire department is dispatched, we're immediately notified, and then we have a telephone tree that we call in on, and the first 4 folks make a beeline to get out. Training. All personnel are trained by firefighters. We take them to the fire station, they do the turnout gear, they go through the fire truck, they basically see what's going on within that fire truck and how the coordination works with the individual firefighters. We have a dedicated truck. The city gave us a truck, and that truck allows us to have all of our supplies, and we can take that truck directly to the fire department, right to the fire, and set up. We usually set up a tent and some tables. Now, the Police and Fire Academy, what's covered? On the police side, we talk about traffic and traffic stops. We talk about K-9. Sergeant Sullivan brings in the K-9, and when he was with the SWAT team, he would bring in a SWAT team. We talk about weapons and communication. We talk about search warrants, DUIs, school resource officers, and we talk about legal. All these things are covered, not all at one time, but in one session per week that we have. The other thing that we do is what's covered on the fire side, and this is really an interesting part. Everything is taught by trained firefighters. We actually work with the equipment that the firefighters have. Jeff, you were with us. You went through the academy. Some of the interesting things. We actually get to fight a real live fire. We go down to the fire academy in North Richland Hills, take one of the trucks down. We put on turnout gear. We fire up the hoses. We climb up 2 stories. We actually put out a fire. It takes 2 guys to drag a 3-inch fire hose up 2 stairs, 2 flights of stairs. I'll guarantee you that's pretty heavy.
We could have used a third.
We could have used a third, absolutely. But that live fire teaches you an awful lot. And we got to use the jaws of life and some of the break-in equipment. And we had a wreck towed over from one of the junkyards. And we took a Ford Ranger and converted that into a convertible. And that was really interesting. We taught us the correct way to break a glass, how to cut the tops off, how to break a door open if we need to. Another interesting thing is we got to climb a 125-foot ladder. I didn't. When they asked me if I was going to climb it, I says, at my age, Mama didn't raise a fool. There was no way I was going to do that. But you get up there and if you can see on the slide there, on the far right-hand side, that's one of our guys climbing up that ladder. And I believe that ladder is at about a 40-degree angle, climbing up. And of course, you're tethered when we're going up. So in case you slip and fall, you're not going to kill yourself. You'll be saved. Now, some of the events that we support, we do the Touch of Truck, and that's usually done down at Indy East. We handle the 4th of July parade, and we also work a safety tent at the 4th of July celebration with the fireworks. We work Pet Fest. We work the Byron Nelson Homecoming Parade. We have the Firehouse Open House. And then we do the Wreaths Across America that we just got done this last fall. Community events. This is some of these pictures happen to be some of the things that we did on the 4th of July parade. We drive the rehab truck. We drive the police pickup truck. We drive the COP car. We're set up right behind the fire engines, and it's kind of a neat experience. Plus, we've also got folks that man the barricades. Now, one other thing, we're involved with the Community Emergency Response Team. This is called CERT. I don't know if you've ever heard of CERT. CERT exists for big disasters in the event that there's a major storm or a fire. And CERT is controlled by Denton County. Denton County has all the communities in Denton County hooked up with their volunteers. And in order to be qualified with CERT, they use what we use here as far as our COP and our fire rehab, as far as training is concerned, to qualify to go on and work with CERT. And if anybody's interested in CERT, please ask me about that later. Now, our board of directors is made up of Dave Richardson. He's our new president. We've got Stephanie Presley, who's our vice president. Connie White is our secretary. I'm stuck doing the treasury. Robert Ferguson is our member at large. And our immediate past president is Gretchen Wolfer. And Mayor, at this time, I would like to turn this back over to you.
Okay, I'd like for Gretchen to come to the podium, please. Gretchen, this is so wonderful. You've done a wonderful job. I don't know about you all, but I think you need to give a hand to this. Raise your hand if we got some recruits tonight. Raise your hand.
Good job, Jean.
I mean, that was just a beautiful presentation.
It was. Thank you
so much, Jean.
for doing that. That was awesome.
Thank you. This is a certificate of appreciation to you, Gretchen Wolfer, for the time, the commitment, the love, the dedication to, I know these are your buds, aren't they? And it's a sad time, but we appreciate you.
Thank you.
God bless you. And
Thanks to these guys, all these guys. Couldn't have done it alone.
just thank you so much. Thank you. God bless you.
All of oh my gosh. Thank you guys. You guys are wonderful. We're gonna keep it top secret. Wow. Joe, I'm the assistant to the presidente. The cheers. Yeah, the chiefs. Chiefs.
Hello, Chief.
Oh, I know.
One of the thing that I'd like to mention, just so y'all can tell your friends and neighbors the amount of work that our organization puts in, is that this year we put in over 2,400 hours. And if you were to equate that to dollars donated just in labor, it's about $77,000.
That's what I would think.
So I want to thank you all very much for allowing me to give this up. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean, for your dedication. Thank you, every one of you, for being here tonight. It's a great privilege to know that we're so well taken care of. And just everywhere we go, we see someone in this organization supporting and helping our town. Thank you. Anybody want to say anything? Come on. Anybody? Carl, you want to say anything?
Thanks, guys.
You always do a great job in support when we do the First Responder Appreciation Day. We appreciate you setting up the drunk driving goggle station, and your support of that's a lot of fun.
Anyone else? Stacy, want to say anything? No? Anybody? Jeff?
Hey,
We appreciate you. What, Jeff?
I've always been a big supporter of TCEVA. I mean, these people are putting it out on the line. And I'm
Oh,
an ex-fireman. I didn't have support like that.
I was going to ask you, do our towns around us have this kind of support, like Roanoke or North Lake, or we're making a presentation on Wednesday, and I want to see if this is a differentiation for us.
Roanoke does and South Lake does. Now, if y'all remember the chemical fire that we had about a year and a half ago over here on the east side, there were 13 communities that were involved in that. We had probably, and Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, probably about 30 fire trucks. And we had worked in conjunction with the South Lake fire rehab team. Any other questions?
Yes, I do, actually. I'll put the chiefs on the spot here. So when's the next Citizen and Fire Academy?
I can't answer that. You gotta talk.
They know I've been asking. You keep saying that. I'll circle back next week too. Okay.
Well, if we have recruits out here, how did they know where to go?
Good thing you asked. For specific information, you can contact Dave Richardson at that email address, and you can contact Stephanie Presley at that address. Dave is our president, Stephanie is our vice president.
Thank you very much. We just greatly appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. Anything else? Y'all have a great day.
Thank you, Gene. Good job.
Thank you, Gene.
Good job. Thank you. Okay, we'll just do a few quick updates from our council. I don't want to miss this because I think it's an important piece of the evening. And so anyone want to begin? Anybody have something? Dennis?
But of course, I have some.
Of course. Go.
I'm going to address, Brandon, I'm going to address the Hillcrest. I live on Hillcrest. Wade Carroll was creating a compilation of all the drainage issues in town, and this was one of them that was put on it. And even though it was brief, it was thought of, but it was never really addressed like the citizens did it tonight. Unfortunately, Hillcrest was developed before the town. So therefore, they had numerous different developers all around, each with different standards, different ways to go. Jamie Court was developed while the town was an issue. So if Jamie Court is draining onto a house or something in Hillcrest, that's wrong. That should be addressed right away. But the other thing is, if this whole town has issues, and there should be a continuation of that. One of the problems is the rear, it was mentioned, the rear drainage, which is no longer available or really designed for anymore. And 40 years later, we have pools, courts, and everything else. So that's part of it. So the citizens are all correct tonight, but a lot of this is civil until I heard Jamie Court draining onto Hillcrest, and that's wrong. That would be while the town was engineered. So I would like it to be addressed or for you to start something. Thank you.
So that could be a future agenda. Okey-doke. Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Anyone? Steve?
Just a reminder that Friday is the end for any citizen out there that wants to run for council. We have several candidates already out there running, and I guess I would take this opportunity, since the next time we're going to meet will be in what I'll call election season, right? People will be out campaigning. So I encourage those that are running to be civil. We haven't always done a good job of that at Trophy Club, but we know we can. So I have every confidence that the candidates that are going to be out there and running will remember why they're running. They're running for the town of Trophy Club. They're passionate about Trophy Club. And I hope that their communication, whatever form that is, will reflect that. So let's be the city and the town that we're so proud of, even in election season. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Others? Well, I have to say something. So I'm going to say something because I am so proud of these newsletters. Every week they're coming out on Friday night. And if you have not tapped into them on your Trophy Club website, shame on you, because you need to. They're fabulous. And I'm just aware that the very first newsletter introduced the Bobcat study. The second newsletter showed pictures of the council out there working it. So you can follow in your newsletters the projects that are going on step by step. There are no surprises. There should be no surprises to the residents in Trophy Club what's going on in this town. I noticed one of the highlights that I particularly liked was the page regarding this reports from the police department. I don't know about all the council, but we have questions about that often. Well, now there is a place every week, there will be something regarding police activity, statistics, or whatever. Thank you, Jill, thank you, Brandon, and thank you to every director who puts information into this newsletter. And it's a big job because it's weekly. And I think that Jill is apparently getting her process in place. And so what does the council think about these? I mean, give them some feedback. What do y'all think?
I think it's great.
It's good.
I mean, it's something that's been lacking for several years.
I think that breeds transparency.
I'm sorry, what?
It opens the door to transparency.
Absolutely. It truly does. And I have received many comments about it. And it really puts us on the map, because I'm going to tell you, I've been going to some of the other towns. I don't see anybody else having something like this. So this is just a beautiful picture of who we are, what we're doing, and where we're going. And I will say one more thing, and that is on Wednesday, we're having our State of the Union presentations at the Metroport luncheon every year. So we get to hear what everyone in our area is doing, what they're up to. And so I'm looking very forward to representing Trophy Club, because I'm telling you, we have a story to tell. And it is different from anyone around us in such a way that it puts Trophy Club on the map as the place to live, to be, to do business. And consider all the people that drive through our town who like to see our town from here to here. So it's just a great place, and I'm very proud to be representing you on Wednesday at the Metroport. Okay, next, Mr. What's your name? Mr.
Just call me Brandon.
Brandon. I'm just
Good to
kidding.
go. Thank you, Mayor.
I'm only teasing. Go ahead.
A couple of updates for you and for everyone watching. First of all, just as a quick update for the Art and Culture Ad Hoc Committee. As you remember, we are working with that group really to bring forward recommendations for a future Arts and Culture Committee here. We are collaborating with the facilitator really to consolidate the ideas of that group, bring them forward to the town council in a recommendation. As we work with that facilitator, and we're transitioning into that right now, one of the things that had been on the original plan was for there to be an update in the month of March. With that, we're a little bit behind schedule, and so we anticipate coming either in April or May. But we are scheduled for the month of March with the facilitator and this group to be able to get all of those ideas formulated down on paper and making sense that we can present those to the town council. As a fence repair update, as it's always in the town weekly, I encourage anyone to go in and take a look at it there. But also, we want to just celebrate the fact that our staff has done a great job completing the fence repair project there at the corner of Bobcat and Parkview Drive. And so we want to just thank the public for their patience as we got that done. It was a long time coming for that, but thank you to our Parks Department for spearheading that project. Also, although it's not very warm yet, summer is right around the corner, and summertime in the town line of business means that we need workers. So if you're interested in working as one of our summer workers, just know that we're gearing up to open up our job application process for that. So keep your eyes out on the next couple of weeks for opportunities to come and be part of the Trophy Club team. Also, in the area of identity theft, so our police department is doing a great job reaching out to the community. They are providing a forum for that on Thursday, February 15th. That's going to be at Lake City's Church of Christ. It will be an informative presentation on Identity Theft Resource Center on protecting your identity. So we want to invite the public to be part of that. You can either register by way of the church or by way of our police department. If you contact the police department, Police Captain Bobby Tillman is the one to contact. That's B. Tillman, Tillman, again, BTILLMAN at trophyclub.org. And we look forward to seeing as many residents there as we can. Last but not least, we do have a couple of boards and commission meetings that are upcoming over the next couple of weeks. On February 19th, we have our Parks and Recreation Board meeting. That is at 7 o'clock. Again, February 19th at 7 o'clock. And the other one would be February 27th, our Economic Development Committee. That will be at 6 o'clock. So again, our Economic Development Committee, 6 o'clock here at Council Chambers. And that's it for right now, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. You're busy. And our esteemed town attorney, Dean Roja.
Okay, so I'm just going to give a quick update. I know several months ago, we talked about a possibility of meeting remotely, at least a couple of you or one of you when necessary. And so the question originally was, well, do we have the technology to do that? There are specific requirements under the Texas Open Meetings Act that ties to the DIR, which is created by the state to create audio and visual requirements for having remote meetings. I guess I know we don't have much time, so I'll just say this. Before you want to do that, talk to Tammy and I, because we need to have specific language posted on the agenda. One of the requirements for having a remote meeting is also not everyone remote. A quorum of the council would need to be present here, okay? So what I'm talking about is like maybe one person, hopefully, that is making the request at a time. And so we would need to identify the presiding officer on that agenda, okay? So we can't just have someone kind of ad hoc decide, I'm going to do remote, because then the agenda posting would be off and then we'd be in violation of the act, all right? So one of the things that we're going to work through is maybe like a picture-in-picture. So one of the requirements would be that you have to have a live recording, okay, a live feed. The person who is remote would need to be on the monitor. So everyone here could see that person at all times. One of the words that's used in the act is demeanor. So the requirement is that they need to be able to see the demeanor of the person who is remote. Okay, so sad, happy, angry, whatever it is. And so that person, wherever they are in the world, would need to have the technology to show their demeanor at least, and also to be able to have audio consistent throughout the meeting so that you could hear everything that's going on wherever they are. Okay, so there are specific requirements. It can be done. We ask that you talk to us first and we coordinate how that will be done. One of the technology issues that we have to work out is the present live face of that person who is remote. So what, if it's up on one of these monitors, or if we roll in a TV in Mayor Pro Tem's spot and you see his face on the TV, that's how some municipalities will do it.
Well, I just have a question. Is that different from in the past? Because y'all have had council meetings when you've been offsite, someone's offsite. How is that different?
It's different because during COVID, there were some exceptions that were authorized. And so post-COVID, we're back to the original rules under the act.
So that's what we're doing. We're coming back to the way it originally is.
Yes.
Legally.
Yes.
But the last time we kind of talked about this, Mayor, and you're right, was we kind of went from, it was COVID, we could do it, we made some exceptions, to what I understood is, no, can't do it, to now, we can do it, but it's got to be very specific guidelines.
Yes, we weren't quite set up for it technologically. But I understand that we are now. We just need to work out. One of the things that we've discussed is maybe doing kind of like a mock meeting without y'all here. Maybe have one of you remote in so we can make sure that everything's set up and so it flows. And there's some weird rules, right? It's like if the live meeting, live feed shuts down and the people in the audience here can't see the meeting up there, then you have to stop the meeting.
Oh.
Okay? So we have some things that we'll have to work out. If the person who is doing the live feed into the meeting, you can't hear them, you might lose your quorum. Or if you can't see them, you might lose your quorum for that item. So we'd have to really work through that.
I think the best thing to do is just everybody show up. Wow. Amazing.
Yeah, it just depends on how many you have up here.
Yeah, I thought you said you
Yeah.
have to have, you really want a quorum here.
You have to have a
You want-
quorum here.
So that's kind of irrelevant. We wouldn't really lose a quorum for that one person, right?
Yes.
Okay, I get the point.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we have to work with the statutory language.
Yeah. That's why we pay you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay, well, let's go to our consent agenda, please.
Consent agenda, item 4, consider approval of the January 8th, 2024 Town Council regular meeting minutes, January 19th, 2024, and January 20th, 24 Town Council retreat meeting minutes. 5, consider approval of the first quarter investment report for fiscal year 2024. 6, consider resolution authorizing amendments to financial institution documents naming authorized town representatives for Texas local government investment pools, tax pools signature accounts. Item 7, consider resolution adopting the method for making written requests for public information. Item 8, consider amendments to the Town of Trophy Club compensation plan with an effective date of February 12, 2024. Item 9, consider authorizing the town manager to negotiate and execute a repair contract with Classic Chevrolet of Grapevine, Texas, in an amount not to exceed $150,000 to repair 25 town vehicles affected by hail damage on June 11, 2023. Item 10, consider authorizing the town manager to negotiate and execute a master services agreement with Terralogic Solutions Incorporated for payment kiosk and software services for the Trophy Club Park entrance in the amount of $48,273.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the
Mayor?
consent agenda? Yes, sir.
I'd like to have items number 7 and number 10 removed from consent.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda with approving 4, 5, 6, 8, and 9.
I move those items, pulling 7 and 10.
Second.
Okay, those in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed? Good. So we will take number 7, item number 7. Would consider a resolution adopting the method for making written requests for public information.
Yeah,
Dennis, do you
Mayor, I
speak
asked
to
that,
that?
and thank you very much for consuming, that be removed from consent. This is a fantastic time for citizens to hear what a request for public information is and how to do it properly and how to look on the website and what to do. So I'd like to have that cleared. And also that this change in resolution that we're making tonight is a very minor part of it. And it is not that difficult. But if I could, Tammy, could you give us a briefing on what a written request is?
Put any information submitted to town staff requesting public information, documents, could be audio recordings, could be videos, just any type of information. I think Dean, one of his last civic tips during his, presented what actual documents were or town records are. So it could be any type of media. It could be, again, videos, audios, paper, and those documents that come in. What this does is that prior to the law changing, and right now the way our policy is, anybody can send an email to any member of staff requesting information. And we really don't have a way to track that. You have a certain amount of time, 10 days to request an attorney general's ruling for public information. So what the law changed was that the council can set a method for public information. When you walk in the lobby, I don't know if any of you've noticed, at the front door is a public information request sign that tells the public how they can request information. It's pretty lengthy. It's also on our website. So this sets the method, which would be on the website, by a town email, in person, or by mail. It sets those regulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yep.
Other questions?
No, I just need to clarify for that for the public. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess I want a clarification. So what have people been doing in the past?
Currently on our website, we have a portal for public information requests that the town adopted probably 2 to 3 years ago. At that time would have been a good time to amend, to adopt this resolution doing that method. Currently, we have well, in 2023, we received 591 requests through the portal. Of that, 282 were directed to the town and 309 were directed to the police department.
Okay. Now they're going to go.
They go to this website. Nothing's changing.
Okay.
It's everybody seems to be using that software. This is just setting the methods. So if by chance somebody just sends an email somewhere, we're not responsible to responding to that, and the deadlines don't take place.
I think that's the key, that if they don't get it to the right place, then we're not liable or responsible for the gap.
That is correct.
That's what I'm hearing now, I think.
Yes.
Is that, y'all hearing this, maybe I'm slow, but
that's exactly correct.
That's exactly the thing. And that's what the public needs to know. So, for instance, if they send something to a council person or someone like that, it could be a long time before you know what I mean?
The town wouldn't have to respond.
Yeah.
What we do, if we get an email from someone, we'll ask them and put it into the system, or if we get it from the open records, the email account created for that, we'll log it into our system so we can track it.
Perfect. Okay.
All right, I'd like to make a motion that we approve agenda item number 7, consider a resolution adopting the method of making written requests for public information.
I'll second.
All those in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed?
Thank you, Tam.
Pass.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Item number 10, yes, 10. Who put that out there?
I asked that it be so that town Parks Department could give us a briefing on the, Everybody else understands everything. I don't. So this part about you have software, you have hardware, you have, you're initiating something that's going to be new. Can it be used again if something improves later? Please.
Yes. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. So we come before you to talk about the payment system that allows visitors to enter Trophy Club Park. The current system, if you've visited out there, we have a gate system and also a gate attendant check, and then we have the payment kiosk. The current payment kiosks, sometimes the screens work and sometimes they don't. And we work through those current issues. And one thing, the hardware part of this is to approve a new VinTech payment system that not only will replace that current system and sit where it is, but also has some updated equipment to it that allows the tap to pay as well as mobile, such as Apple Pay. So it gives the customers a better experience. As Town Manager Wright and myself experienced one day going out, a gentleman asked, well, do you accept Apple Pay? And at the current situation, we don't. One of the other inconveniences that we have with the current system is that our membership works off of our current recreation software, which is Civic Rec. And then we have the VinTech system. So our staff members will get updated when a membership has been purchased. Sometimes it's not immediate. If they purchase it late at night or in the evening after 5 o'clock, they'll get that notice the next morning. If someone was trying to enter the park there, they have to manually take that information from one system and input it into the VinTech system to allow them to use the code, as well as stop by Town Center to pick up their membership card. So they're having to make multiple trips. As you know, when you're wanting to go do an activity or take part in walking or riding motorcycles, or play disc golf, that makes it inconvenient. So as we looked at new solutions with this year's funding, TerraLogic and VinTech Solutions is coming together, and TerraLogic is the bridge between the two systems. And so what they are doing is now someone can purchase a membership, and it will put that system into Civic Rec, as well as email them a code that they get right after that purchase is complete. As many of us are used to with online purchases, you get that follow-up email with your code, then they can punch that code in and enter the park there. And so it creates that bridge, but also that customer service that allows our participants to go when they want to and when they need to, usually that day instead of taking extra trips over. The great news about this is as we do future improvements, the current infrastructure that is there will allow us to put this system into place in the next, I believe it's 6 weeks, if this is approved, to be able to then develop this system. And then it's, I think total is 10 weeks for the VinTech system to come out. 5 weeks is the building of the software. That if we do improvements, say to that gate entrance, that this hardware will be able to then be removed. And if, say, we're doing a redesign of that in future projects, that we'll be able to continue to use this same system. And so it's a solution right now to enhance the customer experience, but also allows us to continue that in the future.
So it's a long-term investment.
Correct. Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I have a question. How does this tie into the system we use for the pool currently? Is there any similarities? Is it something that can be applied to it? Is there any reason for that?
So you have two kind of separate areas. So the current system that the pool uses is through Civic Rec. So it allows individuals to purchase the pool memberships. We have scanners over there that allow them to scan it. And this is just taking the ability of access to Trophy Club Park and bringing it into the family of Civic Rec that now allows that one-stop shop.
Okay.
Other questions?
I have, no, I was going to make a motion, but I had a comment first, and Dennis, thanks for pulling that, because I was going to do the same. This is just a general comment to those in the audience and those looking online. All the stuff that's in the consent agenda is also in the deck, okay? So sometimes when you see the consent agenda and you're sitting out there saying, well, where do I get more information? It's all in the deck. Matter of fact, I'm sure you all read page 183, right? Show of hands, 183. But the point is, we feel sometimes we want to pull it off so it can have it, especially if it touches the public. This one did, so appreciate that, Dennis.
Chase, could you remind everybody what the rates are for the park?
Yes.
Put you on the spot.
You're going to put me on the spot. For daily entrance for Trophy Club residents, it is $2. And then for non-residents, it's $5, and those are for the non-motorized activities. And then I believe for the ATV and motocross, I believe it is $30. But those are the ones I remember offhand. You can visit our Trophy Club Park website, and it does have all the rates listed.
It's a bargain. If you haven't been out there.
It
you need to
is. Yes, it is. Definitely.
Other comments? How long have you been on the job? How long have you been with us?
I just started my 5th week.
He knows a lot, doesn't he? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
you, Chase. Appreciate you. Glad you're here with us. Thank you.
Glad to be here.
Other comments?
Let me make a motion.
Make a motion to approve item number 10.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Good job.
Thank you.
Yes. I think if before we adjourn, this is your last opportunity. Anybody want to have anything to say? No.
Sign that gavel.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second? Done. 8:12. We are adjourned. Thank you.